What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Look, I wasn't planning on feeling this level of hype in late September, but here we are. Jason Tatum just lit a fire under Celtics Nation like it's the playoffs already. And I know, we were all preparing ourselves for a down year. You probably heard me last week talking about tanking, draft odds, preserving assets, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, JT goes full media blitz, and suddenly I'm digging out my playoff beard like it's April. Let's talk about it, because the vibe around the Celtics has changed dramatically in the last 48 hours. Tatum went from recovering quietly to sitting down with literally every microphone and camera that would have him. People Magazine, Good Morning America, ESPN, Stephen A. Smith. I mean, at this point, the man might show up on Dancing with the Stars just to say, hey, I might be back this season. And it's not just the volume of appearances. It's what he said. Because for weeks we've been speculating. Will he play this season? Is it a lost year? Are we tanking for top 5 pick? But JT came out swinging. The exact words were, I haven't said I'm not playing this season. I don't go to rehab 6 days a week for nothing. That's not subtle. That's not cryptic. That's a statement. Now listen, I gotta be honest with y'all. I was one of the guys preaching patience. I was team, shut him down, protect the future, play the long game. But when a guy tears his Achilles and then turns around a few months later talking about how strong his calf is and how he's doing double heel rises at 8 weeks post-op, that's not normal. That's not human. That's borderline Terminator stuff. Tatum even got emotional talking about what that injury meant in the moment. Said he cried for 2 hours straight after it happened. And look, say what you want about that. But if you think that's an overreaction, then you've never lived through this league. You've never seen what happens when a guy gets hurt and becomes damaged goods overnight. Tatum literally said he thought his career might be over. He thought the Celtics might trade him. He worried his endorsement deals would vanish. And you know what? He had every reason to feel that way. Isaiah Thomas dropped 40 in a playoff game on one hip, gave everything he had to Boston, and he was traded like a week later. Danny Ainge didn't even blink. But this isn't the Danny Ainge era anymore. This is Brad Stevens' team now. Different philosophy, different vibe, and maybe, just maybe, a little more faith in their stars. Because what I really want to know right now is, how does the front office feel about all this? Are they telling Tatum to pump the brakes? Or are they looking at the same rehab reports we are and going, you know what, screw it. Maybe this guy really is built different. And look, I know the whole built different thing gets thrown around way too much these days. Every high school hooper says it on TikTok. But when a surgeon says, I've never seen a calf that strong, that makes me pause. That makes me reevaluate. Because we're not talking about some random trainer. We're talking about Martin O'Malley, the guy who's done procedures on some of the most elite athletes in the world, saying that JT's recovery is unlike anything he's seen. That doesn't just happen. Now, if you're sitting there like, okay, but when would he come back? First off, let's calm down. No one's saying he's suiting up on opening night. But there is a date floating out there. March 3rd, Jason Tatum's birthday. Bill Simmons brought it up, and honestly, it kind of makes sense. If you're Tatum, and you're doing this whole cinematic comeback arc, why not circle your birthday? Picture it. Celtics at home, TD Garden, lights go down, crowd buzzing, and Tatum walks out of the tunnel. That place would explode. They should honestly have theme music queued up like it's WrestleMania. Imagine that intro. Goosebumps. Okay, but even if we put the drama aside, let's talk basketball. Let's say the Celtics are hovering around the 6 or 7 seed by March. Maybe they're in the play-in. Maybe they're just treading water, waiting for something to shake. And then Tatum comes back. You're telling me the top seeds in the East want any part of that team in round 1? You're the Cavs, the Knicks. You've been grinding all season, home court locked up. And your reward is the Boston Celtics with a healthy Tatum? Nah, that's not a reward. That's a nightmare. Because here's the thing. The Celtics were written off this summer because they lost Tatum. That's it. Sure, they lost depth too. Al Horford is out. Porzingis still has question marks. Holiday's no longer there. But if Tatum walks back into that locker room, everything changes. The team doesn't magically become perfect, but now they've got something that the Knicks and Cavs don't have. 2 guys who have been to the mountaintop. Tatum and Brown have real playoff experience. They've been through it. Those other squads, They're still figuring out how to win a Game 6 on the road. And yes, I know the depth is still thin. Let's be real. This current Celtics roster is not the deepest. You've got Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, and that's about it in the backcourt. Maybe you get some minutes out of Hugo or Baylor, but we're not talking proven contributors. On the wings, Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, and some question marks. In the front court, you've got Xavier Tillman, Nemi Izquierda, and maybe Luke Cornett getting some love. It's not pretty. No one's pretending this is a stacked team. But you add Tatum, suddenly everyone looks a little better. Role players get to be role players again. And while we're here, let me just say it. Don't sleep on Hauser. Yes, he's streaky. Yes, he disappears sometimes against elite teams. But if he's your fourth or fifth option, and he's spacing the floor, that's exactly where you want him. And if you're choosing between Hauser and someone like Simons in a potential trade scenario, remember, Sam's on a team-friendly deal. He's under control. That makes him way more valuable than someone like Simons who's on an expiring contract. Now, I'm not saying the Celtics are going to go on some miracle run, but if Tatum comes back, and I mean really comes back, healthy and ready, this team isn't dead. Not even close. They become that annoying playoff opponent nobody wants to see. They're the scary matchup. The kind of team that ruins brackets and gets coaches fired. You know what else I loved from Tatum's interviews? When Malika Andrews brought up the tanking narrative, he shut that down immediately. Said it's not in the Celtics culture. Said the standard is the standard, no matter who's on the floor. And that's not just lip service. That's a shot of adrenaline to everyone in that locker room. That tells the young guys, hey, we're not mailing it in. And it tells the league, we're still here. So yeah, this season might not be what we expected, but it also might be something else entirely. A grind it out, against all odds, claw your way back type of year. And if Jason Tatum really is built different, then who knows what happens when March rolls around. And just when you think all this Tatum hype is enough for 1 week, the NBA gods toss a little something extra into the mix. Skinny Zion. Yep, Zion Williamson is back in the conversation. And not just because he looks like he finally learned how to say no to late-night milkshakes. This version of Zion isn't just in shape. He's talking differently, like a guy who's been through something. Like a guy who's starting to understand what it really means to be a professional. And I don't say that to be shady. We've all seen his journey. From the freak athlete who couldn't stay on the court to this guy who now says stuff like, it feels good to feel good. That's therapy talk. That's growth. Now, am I saying Zion's going to play 75 games this season and carry the Pelicans to the top of the West? No. But am I saying there's a version of the league where he stays healthy, plays with joy, and reminds everybody why he was the #1 pick? Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing. A locked-in Zion still has the potential to be one of the top 5 players in the world. That's not an exaggeration. That's what he looked like when he was healthy, even in short bursts. What makes this whole situation fascinating is that his contract is super tradable. It's one of the most flexible deals in the league. The Pelicans built in a ripcord. They can get out of it anytime. None of the money is guaranteed if they decide they've had enough. That means if he shows out early this season and a team starts thinking maybe Zion's figured it out, he could become one of the biggest pieces on the trade market before the deadline. Or flip it. If things don't work out, the Pelicans could move on without getting buried financially. Now, I'm not saying the Celtics are in play for Zion. That's not what this is. But it's worth keeping an eye on. Because the league shifts fast. One injury, one disgruntled star, one phone call, and suddenly the landscape changes. And if we're already dreaming about Tatum coming back in March, why not toss a little more chaos into the mix? You never know. Speaking of chaos, let's shift back to Boston real quick and talk about Bill Simmons. The guy's been throwing out trade scenarios like he's playing NBA 2K on casual mode. And look, I love the energy, but some of these are just wild. He mentioned the Houston Rockets as a potential trade partner, which on the surface makes sense. Houston lost Fred VanVleet, and their guard situation is straight up messy. They've got Amen Thompson, who looks like a stud, but beyond that, it's basically Reed Shepherd, Aaron Holiday, and a bunch of prayers. Now Simmons starts spitballing names. Ayo Dosunmu from the Bulls, Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans, TJ McConnell from the Pacers, even Scottie Pippen Jr. And then, of course, the name that perks up every Celtics fan's ears, Peyton Pritchard. Look, I get it. Pritchard would make a ton of sense for a team like Houston. He's steady, he can shoot, he doesn't make mistakes, and he plays hard. And it's $7 million this year, $9 million next year. That's a solid deal for a young backup point guard. But here's the thing. I'm not ready to say goodbye to fast pages. I know he's not a superstar. I know he's not locking down Kyrie Irving in a playoff series. But man, he's one of those glue guys that teams overlook until it's too late. He hits big shots. He plays with heart. And he launches those full-court heaves like every second matters. That kind of energy is contagious. And let's be real, on a team that might be struggling to keep its head above water early in the season, guys like Pritchard matter more than ever. Plus, if you're trading him, it better be for real value. Not some 34-year-old wing on an expiring deal. Not for filler. You want to talk about Houston? Fine. But I better see picks. I better see young talent. Because otherwise, what are we doing here? And that leads us into the other debate that's been bubbling up lately. Sam Hauser versus Simons. Now, I know a lot of fans would rather move Sam. They see Simons as the better overall player. More upside, more versatility. And yeah, you're probably right. Simons has more juice. But here's what people forget. Simons is on an expiring deal. Hauser is locked up on a super-friendly contract. That changes everything. A team looking to build something long-term is going to look at Hauser and see value. They're going to see a guy who can space the floor, hold his own defensively, and not cost them a fortune. And that might be more valuable than 1 year of Simons and then a decision to make in free agency. So when we talk trades, we have to think like a front office, not like fantasy basketball managers. It's not just about who's better. It's about who fits, who's affordable, who's sustainable. And right now, Sam Hauser might quietly be one of the more appealing assets on a roster, especially if Tatum's timeline is uncertain and you're thinking 2 steps ahead. But let's zoom out for a second and just talk vibes. Because if you were like me, you probably woke up yesterday thinking this was going to be a quiet stretch. Media day's not here yet. Preseason's still a little ways off. But then Tatum starts talking, Zion starts flexing, and Bill Simmons goes full GM mode. And suddenly, this random week in September feels like the most alive the NBA's been all offseason. You can feel it, right? That slow building buzz. That tension where you just know things are about to get weird. There's always that one season where everything turns upside down. The team you wrote off becomes dangerous. The player you forgot about comes back better. The trade that seemed impossible suddenly goes through. And I don't know, maybe that's this season. Because if Jason Tatum is even 80% of himself by the time March rolls around, the Celtics are not a bottom feeder. They're not a play-in team in spirit. They're a legitimate threat to anyone not named Denver. And even then, with a healthy JT and a re-energized Jaylen Brown, who knows? But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In what could be the blockbuster move of the offseason, whispers around the league are heating up as reports suggest Zach LaVine has agreed to a historic deal with the Boston Celtics, reportedly worth a staggering $180 million. Sources close to the situation say the talks were intense but fruitful, with both sides seemingly eager to make this union happen. While nothing is officially confirmed yet, insiders are calling it one of the most significant free agent signings in recent NBA memory. The chatter began earlier this week when Boston's front office was seen in what many believe were secretive negotiations with LaVine's camp. Fans in Boston and across the league have been buzzing on social media, speculating on how LaVine's arrival could reshape the Celtics roster. Known for his explosive scoring ability and athleticism, LaVine could immediately slot into a starring role alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, creating one of the most dynamic trios in the Eastern Conference. Some analysts are already projecting the Celtics as legitimate championship contenders if this deal materializes, while some remain cautious, pointing to salary cap implications and the need for roster balance. The excitement among Celtic supporters is palpable. The potential of pairing LaVine's high-flying offense with Boston's disciplined, defensive-minded system has pundits imagining highlight reels that could dominate the NBA for seasons to come. Even league insiders who rarely speculate publicly are hinting that if this rumor is true, the Celtics are making a bold statement that they are all in on chasing a championship immediately. Still, with the NBA offseason full of twists and turns, fans are bracing for possible complications. Will the deal pass league approval? Could another contender swoop in? For now, all that's certain is that the rumor of Zach LaVine signing a $180 million contract with Boston has set the sports world abuzz, and the whispers alone are enough to make Celtics fans dream big. Keep your eyes peeled. If this one goes through, we may be witnessing a transformative moment in the league. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.